Hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm Bettina Glan with Axiom Space. We're excited to highlight the Axiom Mission 2 and this incredible crew. We call them AX2 here. Today, we'll hear from this incredible crew, this 4-person multinational team, before they head up to the International Space Station in only 5 days. The crew consists of legendary NASA astronaut and our Axiom Zone's Peggy Whitson, who's serving as the commander of this mission, pilot John Schaffner, Rayana Barnawi, and Ali Akarni, both mission specialists. In a moment, we will hear from them with opening remarks. But before we begin, let me tell you about the incredible things that this crew will be doing and some great firsts. It'll be the first private mission with both private individuals and astronauts sponsored by a foreign government. It will be the first private mission with a female commander. It'll be the first time that Saudi astronauts visit the International Space Station, including the first Saudi woman, Rayana Barnawi. During this AX2 crew mission to the International Space Station, they will conduct over 20 different experiments, have tons of outreach opportunities to engage with students around the world, and be part of a pivotal step for Axiom Space as they build Axiom Station and build history, not only in space, but for humans here on Earth. Following the remarks for the astronauts, we'll open it up to questions for the members of the press. We ask reporters to please submit their questions in the chat, and please let me know who they're directing the question to. So in that process, as reporters submit their questions, we also have some that have been submitted previously, and we'll try to get to as many as possible. But now let's hear from this incredible crew as they prepare for this mission and let us know what they've been doing during their time in quarantine. First up, Commander Peggy Whitson.
We are so excited to have you guys join us today, 5 days from launch. And let me tell you, we are a little excited about this and the fact that we are going to space shortly, fingers crossed, for everything to go well in the process. But in the week and a half that we've been here, we've been training a lot, just refreshers, reviewing procedures again, reviewing timelines. And so we really feel like we're prepared to go. We have a few more objectives to meet in the next few days, but we are so excited to get to space. As Bettina mentioned, we're going to be doing over 20 different investigations. I'm really personally excited about some of the life sciences and the bioengineering ones in particular, but we have a lot of outreach where we're talking to students. We really want to encourage students to do science, technology, engineering, and math. And so we have a lot of objectives to try and demonstrate things, show young people things, and John's got even more big plan for how he's going to impact the young people in the future. So we have great plans, and we are getting everything lined up, hashing through all the details so that we will be as prepared as possible when we arrive at the station. This crew, I'm really happy that you're going to get to meet them in person because they are such a phenomenal group of people. So next up, pilot John Schaffner.
Thank you, Peggy. You know, to say I'm excited to be here would be a gross understatement. It's a huge opportunity. I'm very privileged to be with Peggy, Rayana, and Ali on this fabulous mission, AX2. I feel like I've been preparing this my entire life. I've been a fan of space since I was a child. I grew up in the age of the early space race. So getting here now and having a chance to fulfill that excitement is very, very powerful to me. And it gives me a chance to demonstrate what I believe is the opportunity of space for everyone by showing what can be done by private and commercial space interests, supporting the role of Axiom Space to develop the next level space station and to develop the methodology using assets of NASA and SpaceX and commercial space to help do that. So I'm truly excited to have the chance to get on orbit, participate in a lot of high level and very valuable science, and also to reach out to students as well as educators to demonstrate and show them that space is here now. We can utilize that for interest to raise the levels of humanity, to help improve life on Earth and improve the things that we do every day as well as prepare us for that generational journey that we're about to step off into for space flight forever. So it's going to be a great mission, and I look forward to participating, and I hope you'll follow us.
Up next is Ali Alkani.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to echo my friends and say we are really honored and privileged to have you guys and to be part of this amazing mission. And it's going to be our second journey as Saudi Arabians to space, and the first time to the International Space Station, me and my crewmate, Rayana Bernawi. We are really thrilled and excited for our mission and to represent Saudi Arabia on this journey. I'm really looking forward to all the experiments we're going to be conducting on board the International Space Station, and also all the outreach events we are planning to do with the new generation who's going to be involving in the STEM field, inshallah, in the future. Sorry. And previously I've been flying, I had a career flying fighter jets for the Royal Saudi Air Force, accumulating over 2,300 flying hours. And now I'm ready and excited for this new chapter of my life, and which clearly gonna change many perspectives, including mine and others. And now to Ray.
Hello, everyone. Well, I'm at least as excited as my crewmates here today. So I have worked for the past 10 years as a researcher. So research has been my passion in life. I have worked on stem cells and tissue reengineering, and I'm very happy and honored to be here today representing the government of Saudi Arabia and the Saudi Space Commission as the first Saudi women astronaut going to the International Space Station. I'm sure with my crewmates here, along with Ali, we're going to have a successful mission. We have plenty of research to do on board station, and we're very excited for the part that we'll be engaging with kids from all over Saudi Arabia and all over the world, talking about our experiments, talking about space, and having them trigger their curiosity towards space. And this is what we are here to do. So I'm sure that we're gonna enjoy this mission. We're almost 5 days away, so our excitement is above the limits.
Thank you so much. I'm almost at a loss of words because I've been really lucky to get to know this crew over the last several months, and they really are an incredible group of people. Peggy, John, Ali, Rayana, and we're really excited for the rest of the world to get to know them a little bit better and watch them as they go to the International Space Station for an incredible mission. So with that, we're going to start with some questions that we have for reporters. First up, I have a question from Marsha Dunn from AP. It says, this question is for Rayana. You're about to become the first woman from the Arab world in space. What does this mean to you personally? And what are you hearing from Saudi and other Arab women? What are you taking up with you to commemorate your history-making flight? And thank you, Marsha, for that question. Rayana?
Well, thank you for this question. I am very honored and happy to be representing all the dreams and all the hopes of all the people in Saudi Arabia and all the women back home in the region. This is a great opportunity for me to represent the country, to represent their dreams. I am here only because of the support of the government, because of the support of the international collaboration between us and Axiom, SpaceX, and NASA. This is a dream come true for everyone, and I'm very happy and to be representing that amount of joy and happiness. Thank you.
Thank you, Rayana. Next question we're going to take from Robert Perlman. Robert asked, for all 4 crew members, what personal mementos are you each taking to space? And specifically for Ali and Rayana, what commemorative or cultural items have you brought with you to represent Saudi Arabia in space? Do you have anything with you that we previously flew on STS-51G with Prince Sultan?
Okay, so for me, I have flown 3 previous times into space, and on each of those occasions, I flew the necklace that I wore when I got married, and I intend to fly it again. Oops. You got yours, John.
Well, when you get a chance to take something to space, it can be a very long list, but but space is limited in space. So one item in particular that keeps coming to mind: when I was 8 years old, I built a model of the Gemini spacecraft, and it had little astronauts in it that could come out, and I happen to still have one from 1963. So one of the little guys, probably Ed White, I imagine, is going with me to space again.
Well, for me, I'm going to be bringing, taking with me a lot of pictures of people who have been, people who have meaning, of people who has done a lot for me and has been always with me and supporting me throughout my career and journey and life. And also a few items that represent and hold the sentimental value for me to space, and just share it with the people after I get back to ground, to Earth. And also for Ryan and I, we're gonna be taking with us Saudi coffee and dates to share with the with the astronauts on board the ISS.
Great. And for me, well, when I first told my grandmother that I was going to space, she gave me her 60-year-old earrings. So these are what I'm taking with me to space, along with the Saudi flag and some photos of my family, and also gifts to the members of Axiom who has helped us throughout this journey.
Thank you all for that question, for those answers. Next, we have a question from Marvin Marshall at Space Report News. What is your sleep schedule like here on Earth leading up to your launch? And what will your sleep schedule be like aboard the ISS?
Actually, our sleep schedule so far has been pretty close to normal. Our launch time is 5:30 in the afternoon, 5:37, I believe. I don't remember the seconds, but we'll know on Sunday. But anyway, we are going to shift a little bit later, so we're going to get up a little bit later on some of the days as we lead up to the mission. However, we don't want to shift too much, because on orbit we'll be on GMT time and wake up will be at 0600 GMT time. So that'll be backwards the other way. So we've got some time available when we're in free flight on the Dragon that we'll be trying to get a little sleep. I imagine we'll be just a tiny bit excited, but we'll be trying to get some sleep then too.
Thank you so much. Next question, we're from Brendan Bryan for Peggy. What have you shared with the crew about your spaceflight experience? And what are some must-do things once in orbit?
I have shared a long list of what we're going to do, what we're not going to do, how we're going to do things, the whys behind all of those, because there's so many lessons learned after being up in space for 665 days. I've got one or two lessons I've maybe learned the hard way. And I'm trying to save them some time, because our mission is relatively short. So we want to make sure we get the most out of every one of those days.
Great. And I know that I'm excited that Peggy, you'll be going up to space and you'll be expanding on your time as the American with the most time in space. So I'm sure you have lots of great stories to share to this crew. Next question comes from Sophie Sanchez for Cosmic Chicago. This question's for John. John, how has your experience in motorsports, working with a team while you operate a vehicle, contributed to your experience training to travel to space? Any skill or motorsports related lessons specifically you found yourself relying on while training for the AX2 mission?
Well, what Peggy first taught us about space was things will always change. And I think, in the sport of racing, you don't always get the result you want. So you have to be patient and take your time. But, the driving a race car at speed is a challenging environment, much like space as well. Being calm and patient, making decisions, preparing yourself before a race. In fact, this week leading up to spaceflight, I'm using a similar protocol that I would use leading up to an important race weekend. You build energy, prioritize sleep, the things that get you into a performance mindset. So the same, sports of any sort, it's a performance goal, and a successful mission for us going to space is a performance goal as well. So all of our training is with us. All of our preparation now is to prepare us in many ways to use that training the best way.
Thank you. Next question is for Sarwat Nasir from the National. For Ali Alkarni and Rihanna Bernawi, what do you think about 3 Arabs being on the space station together at the same time, seeing as you'll be joining UAE's Sultan Al Nayadi, and what kind of message do you think this will send across the Arab world?
I think it is a great opportunity that the 3 of us going to be aboard the International Space Station, and will hold a big message that we're going to be sending out to inspire people. And that means for us as the Arab world, we are holding hands, we are working together for the betterment of humanity, and just try to innovate and excel in innovation and make sure we send the right message and people are excited and inspired about our mission.
Yes, true. Well, maybe to add on that, it will be very interesting for us to be together, working together on board the station, which will show the national collaboration and the unity that space has. And this actually creates that culture of international presence in the International Space Station.
It really is a great time and highlighting the expansion of space, and Axiom Space did enable that flight with UAE. So we're really excited about the role Axiom Space has done to expand the opportunities for more nations to be international space explorers. Next question comes from Irene Klotz. Irene's question is for Peggy. As someone who has been in the ISS since the beginning, what do you think has been the most challenging part of maintaining the program, and what do you hope will be its most meaningful legacy?
Well, the meaningful legacy part's pretty straightforward. The international cooperation is going to be the legacy of the ISS. And I'm very proud to have been a part of all of that. I think some of the most challenging parts of the ISS actually were probably in the early stages as we were building piece parts in all different countries and combining them in space for the first time in some cases, most cases, and actually having this engineering marvel work was pretty amazing to me. And but there were challenges at times. The comm systems were a little glitchy at first, and you get warning messages on one end of the station and not on the other and things. But all of that got worked out over the years, and but all along the way, all the folks in all the countries on the ground have worked together to make everything as seamless as possible for the crew on board, which is why I think, the legacy is that international cooperation, because we have this very much integrated space culture when we're up there, because we're supported from people all over the world.
Wonderful. Next question, Manuel Manzanati from Exploración Espacial. This is for Brianna, but for all. I can imagine the expectation in Saudi Arabia to have 2 astronauts in orbit at the same time. Could you please provide specific activities that you'll be doing with students in Saudi Arabia? Will you be doing specific experiments?
Well, on that topic, we are actually conducting at least 20 experiments, 14 of which are led by Saudi scientists. And at the same time, these experiments range from human physiology, technology, cell biology, and most importantly, as you said, is the outreach. So one of the goals for this mission, at least for me and Ali and John and Peggy, is to do these outreach events for the kids and try to elaborate on the fact that we are here as STEM educators. So for the kids to be attached to math and science and technology, to know that they can do more and they can trust themselves is actually one of the goals of this mission. I think all of us will enjoy that part of the mission when we are interacting with them and playing with them, showing them moves and talking to them in a live feed. So these are one of the goals of this mission.
Maybe you should tell them about the experiments you're going to do with the students directly.
All right, so specifically, we're going to be doing 3 educational and awareness experiments with the kids, and it's going to be a live event, which is going to be amazing for them, because it's going to be a huge opportunity to compare the results that they had in the ground with the one we are going to have aboard the ISS. So we're going to be doing as simple as a space kite and see the difference or the effect of microgravity on the aerodynamics of the space kite in space, and they could compare the results with the one they have on Earth. And also we're gonna be doing heat transfer experiment as well in the same goals, and just the idea of attracting talents and increase their interest in the STEM fields.
Wonderful. This question is from Gina Treadgold. Peggy, how has previous experiences streamlined training for the X2 mission?
Actually, that's a great question, because we did have to change a lot of the training. We learned some lessons from AX1, but also, recognizing that we need to go back to more of a short duration training style, more like we trained for on shuttle flights back in the day. And so I've tried to optimize our training flow to be much more short duration focused, focusing on the areas that we need the most experience with, because as a long duration flyer, you're trained for everything that might happen, but you're not really maybe trained up to the same level that we are trying to be trained up to for each individual thing we know is going to happen in a short duration flight. So we've changed that focus of the training, which is, I think, really made this crew so much more ready this time around. And I'm sure we'll continue to change our training programs as we learn more and figure out how to optimize that. Axiom Space, has this Axiom 2 mission is just a precursor for where we're headed to. We want to be able to have a commercial space station. We plan to have the first module up in late 2025, and that will expand our capability to do commercial space and to have more and more people available, have more and more different science and payloads coming from all over the world. And so we are using these missions to learn how to optimize for that future mission in space.
Thank you, Peggy. This next question is for John. John, this is from Richard Trudeau. It says, you were involved as backup for AX1 and now are finally headed up. As the lone private individual on this flight, can you speak to what the interest might be from your peers to venture into space? What's holding them back? And was there anything you were nervous about before making this commitment? John?
Well, I'll answer those in reverse order. I had, zero nervousness about joining this mission. The moment that actually my wife spotted it first in a news feed 3 years ago, and I could not get a hold of Axiom fast enough, in large part because, I've always held an interest in space. So I actually volunteered as backup, to serve, to support the mission, because I believe in the overall role of Axiom developing a platform to help develop commercial and private interests further. So the training flow in the beginning gave me a good opportunity to experience how NASA trains and educates and what they require of astronauts in space. I wanted to observe that personally. And it gave me an opportunity to advance my training as I prepared for a prime position here now on AX2. So as to what's holding others back, I really can't speak to that, but I certainly hope that what I'm trying to do here will demonstrate the value of a private position in a space flight through all the things that we're doing that can show and encourage others to do that.
I think a good example is your development of a curriculum post-flight for educators.
That's right. I have 2 large platforms that I'm launching here or taking with me as objectives. One is I'm filming a lot of aspects of what goes on the station, how we conduct experiments, how you live in space. I'm targeting that as a final product, as a curriculum supplement to schools, so teachers can use this to open up the eyes of their students so they can contrast life on Earth to life in space. We have a long list of things that we'll be filming so that children can actually see what it's like to operate, live, and conduct a life in space. That would raise their awareness, get their attention, and allow the teachers to gain access to that attention and teach them more things. We also have, which we just concluded the entry of, an art and poetry contest. We had over 900 entries of dramatic art and poetry from kids 8 to 14, maybe 8 to 18 actually, in 3 age groups from 26 countries. And some of the art and the poetry is simply amazing. And we'll be showing and displaying and reading some of that live from the station during the trip. And that's very, very thrilling to me. I love art, and the A in STEAM we want to bring forward as prevalent to show that, art is here and the art of imagination is equally valuable in all the STEM curriculums. So I hope others will take that up as a role.
And actually, John has a good saying. He's always saying that the engineers need the inspiration first. And a lot of times, it's the cartoonists or the people who write books that inspire the engineers to come up with the designs. So I think, art is very important.
It's all about imagination. So we want young people to take up the vision of themselves and imagine themselves in the role that they really, really seek. So hopefully this is a good kickoff and others will follow.
Thank you, John. As a space communicator, I couldn't agree with you more. Next question is from Jay Keegan, Launchpad News for Peggy. You've had the opportunity to fly aboard the space shuttle and Soyuz. Dragon is much more autonomous vehicle than those you have flown prior. How have you felt the training and overall operations of Dragon compares to shuttle and Soyuz? Thanks and best of luck with your mission. Thank you, Jay. And this is to you, Peggy.
Yeah, well, they're obviously very different vehicles, and they were obviously built and designed in very different times. And I think that, the vehicles themselves reflect that. The Soyuz spacecraft was designed in the 50s and modified in the 60s. It goes through incremental changes in their build process. So they have modified the same vehicle over those 60 years. The space shuttle flew for 30 years, was designed in the 10 years prior to that. So it was designed in the 70s and flew from the 80s until 2013. And so, it's a vehicle that was a leading edge thing at the time it was designed, but it had over 2,000 switches in it and circuit breakers. And, the crew had to learn all those things. It was very complicated because of that. And so the Dragon is much more, I think, user-friendly because the data and the procedures are integrated. The displays are wonderful. It really helps the crew keep situational awareness to know what's going on. It does simplify some of the processes in the vehicle, which is great. Our crew has really enjoyed training with SpaceX to develop those skills to get ourselves to the space station. We're very excited to do that.
Thank you, Peggy. Next question. This one's for Rihanna from Brett Tingley from space.com. You mentioned you have previously conducted research with stem cells. Will you be involved with Cedars-Sinai experiment aboard the ISS?
Well, our research, we have a couple of experiments on stellar stem cells, but I'm not aware if we are going to be, it is? Oh yeah, that is, yeah. So yeah, we will be conducting that experiment. I would say personally, that is one of the most exciting experiments for me because I've worked in stem cells for 10 years on Earth. So now I will get to be able to conduct stem cell research as well on board station. So being able to do that work in the glove box will be very interesting, just to see how the cells would behave, how the media would interact, I don't know, with the cells, how the technology on board station differs from the technology that we use here on Earth.
Thank you. Next question is from Kenneth Chang for Ali and Rihanna. What was the astronaut selection process used by Saudi Arabia? What led you to apply?
So the selection process started, I think SSC and Axiom Space worked closely on the selection process. And there were so many astronaut candidates involved. And we were lucky to be selected as a prime. In addition, we have two backups with us, Ali Al-Ghamdi and Maryam Firdaus, who are ready to any future missions to space, inshallah. And selection, we found it is great, and SSC reached out and announced that they are looking for astronauts. And for me as a fighter pilot, I've always have the passion of exploring the unknown and just admiring what's the sky and the stars. So it is a great opportunity for me to pursue this kind of passion that I have, and now maybe just fly among the stars.
Yes, that's true. Well, maybe I'll start with the second part first. So for me, I've been that explorer that loves to look for answers and look for solutions. So that actually what led me to research. And from that, once SSC, the Saudi Space Commission, had the opportunity to open the opportunity for people to go to space, I think I was the first ones to apply for this. So I was glad to enter the room and see Peggy on the screen, and I knew everything about her and space. And I really enjoyed the interview. And here we are representing the Saudi Space Commission, led by our commander, Peggy Whitson.
Thank you to all. Next question is from Andrea from the Houston Chronicle. This question's for Peggy Whitson. Peggy, you said you learned some lessons the hard way. Can you provide a specific example of something you learned the hard way that you want to help your crew members avoid?
Well, I think probably one of the biggest lessons learned, and I've told them, you know, it doesn't seem like it, but slow is fast, especially as you're initially adapting to space. You know, if you try and hurry, you're going to bump into things. You might catch your foot on a cable and disconnect an experiment. So we try and teach and coach these guys to go slow as fast. And it actually is true in a lot of what we do. We have to be very meticulous in order not to miss steps. You know, I teach them about how to use all the tools that we have to optimize their success. You know, it's very technical, but it's, you know, basically using every little aspect of all the data that we get, because we have to integrate things from a stowage node and from an operations node and an execute node, and then the actual procedure. And so trying to integrate all that is a little bit complex at first. And so I've been helping them with kind of the lessons I learned and kind of my approach for how I go about doing business in order to stay ahead of what we call the red line that is always, it keeps moving. We can't stop time. So we want to try and stay ahead, or at least keep up with the red line.
Thank you, Peggy. Next question, Marvin Marshall. Follow-up for questions for all four astronauts. When was the first time each of you looked up at the stars and dedicated yourself to achieving the goal of going to space to advance life here on Earth? We'll start with John. I'm going to start with John.
I happen to know precisely when that was. I was 8 years old, and the space race had just begun in earnest, and that was the biggest thing in the news. And it was so easy for 8-year-olds, or anyone actually, to fall in love with space. We formed a young astronauts club in the small town of Middlesboro, Kentucky, where I grew up. And that was our weekend fun, pretending to train as Gemini pilots. So, and it never left me. So here I am.
For me, you know, in rural Iowa, looking up at the stars and being able to see the Milky Way. I've always loved, you know, the idea of space and, you know, what's out there. I think it became serious when I watched Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin walk on the moon. I thought, wow, cool job. I want to do this. But I was a farm kid and I didn't really know that that would ever be anything realistic for me. But it was always part of me growing up. And even in my poetry, there's mentions of space all the time. So, but when I graduated from high school, that was the year that NASA selected the first female astronauts. And so that's when it went from being a dream into a goal. And so I set my mind to it and ended up eventually making it. It was a long process, but I made it.
Well, for me, I grew up in a small town in Saudi Arabia, but with big dreams. And at night, we have beautiful stars layout, and that what got me into flying and being passionate about airplanes and flying and just the stars in general. And I think as I was training with the U.S. Air Force, I remember on one weekend, we flew our small T-6 and landed in Arlington Airfield, and we had the chance to visit Houston Space Center, Houston, and meet with a couple of astronauts. And I think that was the moment that triggered me to increase my interest in space and look forward to the first opportunity that I actually can be an astronaut and meet my dream.
For me, I'd say space has developed as a passion. I had the chance to go with the crew on an expeditionary trip. And I remember one night we were supposed to wake up a little bit early to watch the ISS fly over. To me, that was the moment that made me realize why I'm here and why I am representing those dreams. Space is full of exploration, and it's I would say it's a dream that developed with me along this journey, and I'm very happy to be going to space now and to that International Space Station in 5 days. Who can imagine? Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Next question comes from Lenka White from Sputnik. Please, I would like to ask the crew about their international training and international experiences, how their different cultural backgrounds can benefit each other at the ISS, and are they planning to greet the astronauts from the Russian part of the ISS? Thank you very much.
Well, absolutely. We're planning to enjoy the entire crew while we're there. I think that's the amazing part about the International Space Station is once you're there, you're a team of one, and, you know, us integrating in for a shorter duration mission, but we, you know, it's one of our main objectives is to integrate well with the crew that's on board, and that includes the Russian cosmonauts. I haven't met any of these Russian cosmonauts personally, except briefly. We had dinner with Andrei before the flight, and his crew, Steve and Woody. And so we had the opportunity to meet with them in advance. So we're looking forward to meeting the other cosmonauts. We've looked at their pictures and studied them, and we recognize that they ended up being, you know, they weren't supposed to be there because, you know, they were supposed to come home in February. So we're looking forward to meeting them for the first time when we arrive on Space Station.
Wonderful. Eduardo Giamarino from Space Voyaging. My question's for Peggy. You've already flown on Space Shuttle and Soyuz. How has it been back in training in a new spacecraft, especially one like SpaceX Crew Dragon? Is there something specific in that you found really interesting or different? And what about the spacesuit?
So obviously the training is pretty different. You know, there's a lot of the stuff is the same, but the specifics about what I enjoy the most on SpaceX Dragon is the integration of the procedures and the data together. That it makes it so much easier for the operator to keep track of things and monitor what's happening and the relevant data for any instance, whether it's nominal or off nominal. And it really is helpful for the crew. So I've enjoyed learning about it. It has been, it's obviously a different spacecraft. So that's been one of the biggest challenges for me, is learning this particular spacecraft. But I've really enjoyed it. And, luckily John and I had the opportunity to work together as the backup crew on the first mission. So we really feel very prepared for this mission, and looking forward to it very much.
Thank you. This question's for Rihanna from Marsha Dunn. Rihanna, what are you hearing from Saudi and other Arab women about your upcoming flight? And what does your grandmother think about you flying in space?
When the announcement happened in Saudi Arabia, we were actually, me and Ali, we were training here in Houston, so we didn't really live that experience, but I would say we have lived the overwhelming waves that came after that. Everyone was super excited for this mission, for them seeing people from their own region going to the space station with the great Commander Peggy and international partners is a great thing for them. Just being able to understand that this is possible. And if me and Ali can do it, then they can do it too. And for my grandmother, I would say, well, actually 2 days ago when I called her on the phone and she said, oh, you have my blessings to go to space. And I was like, oh, that's a little late, sis too. Exactly. I'm already in quarantine. Well, she's very happy. I wish she was here just to see the launch, but I know that she'll enjoy it from Saudi Arabia.
Great. I think all of us have always enjoyed hearing stories about your grandmother. So thank you for sharing. This question from Lucy from AFP. This question's for Peggy. What will your interaction with the ISS crew look like? How much will you rely on astronauts on board, and what has changed compared to AX-1? Some astronauts after the first Axiom mission said they did take care of the visitors.
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, we've changed a lot of the training to emphasize those things that we need to be working on. Of course, I anticipate the ISS crew would help us anytime they need. My time is actually a lot less constrained than Mike LA's time was on the first mission. So I'll be available to help the crew members a lot more as they need assistance, which will primarily just be the first day or two, because once they get their space legs under them, I know these guys are going to be extremely competent, and I'm really looking forward to watching them perform. But I have no questions or concerns about either the integration of our crew or their capabilities. I think we are ready to go, and I think we will show you in a week or so about how good we are.
Great. This question is for all 4 crew members. Is there any specific experiments or outreach event you're looking forward to the most? And if so, why? And this is from the Launchpad.
So for me, my one of the favorite ones for me is something new. It's looking at the microscopic assembly of these materials into fibers and matrices. And I think that is, that technology, that self-assembly and how it works in space may be something that can be applied in future commercial aspects aboard the space station, or hopefully Axiom space station in the future. So I'm really looking forward to the development of those aspects of the mission. Another experiment that I'm also working on, you started me on experiments, so here we go, is cancer in low Earth orbit. We are looking at how cancer cells are forming and working in space, and this is going to help the scientists learn even more about how that development occurs, because in zero gravity, they form more like they do in your body. And so it's a really good model for them to use. And so I'm excited about the results for the investigators.
Awesome. Well, we have lots of great things that we're doing out there. And if we try to talk about all of them, we'd be here all day, but in no particular order, I'm engaged in one with MIT, which is it's a skin suit, which is a heart compression, and I guess it's a gravity countermeasures loading suit, and it's intended to help adapt the physiology or to blunt the effects of the gravity on physiology for short and long-term space travelers. The success of this could help future flights, help quick turn astronauts, commercial astronauts going to space in a short period of time, arrive on station, be more effective faster, and on return have less effects of gravity. So the results of that could be profound for the future of spaceflight.
Well, for me, training to do experiment and research in space has been a new set of skill I've added to my tool box. As a fighter pilot, usually we're not exposed to that world, but I've enjoyed every single part of it. I've learned a lot, and I'm really excited to do all the experiment on board the International Space Station. And one of the experiments that I'm really looking forward, which is cloud seeding. It's going to be happening for the first time in board the International Space Station, and the results of these experiments may impact how we could increase the efficiency of artificial rain and cloud seeding, because as you know, Saudi Arabia is mostly desert, and with this results from the experiment could help us develop the technology that could help us fight desertification.
I would say for me, every experiment that involves the glove box just makes me feel like home. So in particular, I'm very excited for the RNA response experiment, where we will be culturing immune cells for the first time in history as well on board the International Space Station. And we're going to subject those cells to different treatments at different times. Interestingly, this experiment has been developed in Saudi Arabia by a Saudi scientist back home, Dr. Abu Khaber. So we're very excited to take that experiment with us from Earth all the way to space. And maybe just interacting with the kids is like the goal of this mission too, for me, being able to see their faces when they see astronauts from their own region for the first time is very thrilling. I know they'll be looking forward to see John's flips and moves. But yeah, but I'm gonna practice first to see if I can make it.
You will.
Okay, thank you for the question.
Thank you. Fantastic. We have a question from Will Robinson Smith. It is, what advice, and this question is for Peggy Whitson, what advice did Michael L.A., our commander for the AX-1 mission, Michael Lopez Alegria, impart as a fellow former astronaut who led the first private mission and is a fellow commander? Peggy?
Actually, he met with our crew as early on in our quarantine period and kind of gave lessons learned of things to make sure we looked for or knew about. I felt very good about that debrief from him, because I felt like we had changed our training focus since the first mission to the second to answer many of those questions. But it was great to have his perspective, I think, for the crew, so that I'm not the only one telling them. But I really respect LA, and he gave us a lot of good insights, and I really appreciated his very honest, candid feedback.
Thank you. Question from Gia Sinceri. How does the seed clouding experiment work from space? And I would also say for all of those reporters on the Axiom Space website, we have a link to Axiom Research. We have lots of details of a lot of our science experiments that are going on, but I'll turn it over to the crew to answer this question.
So basically, we're going to do it in a confined environment. So it's going to be inside a box, and we're going to be mixing moist air with some crystals to just to see the trial and see the results, what could happen. And actually, if we can and maybe add some extra things in the future that could help us increase the efficiency of cloud seeding to more than 50%, which is right now it's around 15 to 20% success rate on Earth. And we are really looking to increase the percentage in the future.
Thank you so much. We're coming to our end of time here, so I'm trying to get through as many questions as possible. Brendan Byrne has a question for the crew and anyone who wants to answer. It says, space flight doesn't come without risks. What are some of the conversations you're having with your friends and loved ones as you get closer to the launch?
Go ahead.
So since this isn't my first rodeo, I haven't really had a lot of conversations with folks. There are risks associated with spaceflight. We've talked here among the crew. We understand those risks of spaceflight. We feel the benefits that we hope to gain from this mission will definitely outweigh any of the risks. I think being educated and being trained for off-nominal situations helps us feel very prepared and ready. So,
Well, as a follower of spaceflight for a long time, I've had the benefit of following how NASA conducts spaceflight. I've followed closely the development of SpaceX. So for a launch vehicle and for living on orbit on the space station, the systems, and I've had a lot of training in all these systems, and as pilot, a lot of exposure to how these things are conducted. So I have a lot of confidence in all the engineering that's taken place over the past 60 years with NASA and partners, and also how SpaceX has come along to provide a magnificent launch vehicle. So there are always risks, but as Peggy said, we're taking those on for the benefit of the future of spaceflight and humanity. And in support of future spaceflight missions like these. So engineering is solid, we're confident, and we're trained to execute our mission.
Well, my family, wife, and daughter, they are always supportive of me, and it didn't take me much to convince them and explain to them. We are trained on a specific emergency and safety protocols, and we have a good safety measures that we are going with. And so it was, and also with my lifestyle, being a fighter pilot, being a motorcyclist. So they understand me very well, and I didn't face any difficulties to explain that to them.
Maybe, yeah, I'll be echoing my friends here. We have received very excellent training from trainers who actually trained several astronauts before us in NASA at Axiom, and we feel very ready for those events. And maybe for me as a researcher, well, I haven't been exposed to that much risk at launch maybe and these events, but I feel very excited and ready. The sort of questions that we receive from family are mostly about living in space. How do you eat? How do you drink? Where you sleep? And things like that. So they're really excited for the mission.
Mm-hmm. I would say that my family and friends are more concerned that I won't come back.
Well, I guess we all are.
Well, I mean, I'm going to stay, or that's kind of what I meant.
I know this is a dream come true for lots of people. We're all really excited for you all. This is a question for Paul Deaton, for Peggy Whitson, Dr. Whitson. You've spoken on standing on the shoulder of giants. Which of these giants are foremost in your heart and mind as you prepare for another space flight?
Oh, the list is so long. You have so many people that help contribute to any space flight, and it's literally, and we, as we went through the training, I think these guys were really impressed. We go to Japan, and the whole team of people there, we meet all the flight controllers, we meet the trainers, we see all their modules that they've worked and maintained, and then we go to Europe and see the same there for their modules. Then and then of course NASA has all the modules, and we've trained and worked in all of those. We've met the trainers, we've met flight controllers, we've met managers of programs that are hopeful for our success and, supportive of our success. And then, of course, we have the whole Axiom team that is, supporting us, on a daily basis, getting us ready and prepared and making sure we have all the necessary training materials we need. And so that we're set to go for this mission. And so it literally is thousands and thousands of people, and they're all over the world. So I can't tell you one set of shoulders I'm on.
Very wonderful. I'm going to try to squeeze in 2 questions quickly for Rihanna. This question's from Fafia Hamza. What was the most exciting experience and most challenging one that you went through for your training for this mission?
Well, I'd say I'll start with the challenging one. During our nose experiment, so when we went on our expeditionary and leadership program, the first thing we did was carrying that 45-pound backpack, and it was super heavy that I thought that I'm not gonna make it ever in this program. But then here we are, representing dreams and hopes. I would say the most meaningful moment for me was when one day I was asked to introduce myself and introduce and speak about the aims of our mission, but at NASA. At that moment, that room was filled with brains and astronauts and previous astronauts and current astronauts. It was a room filled with legacy. Just if them giving me this opportunity to speak about this experience is, well, I'm trying to, yeah. It has been an amazing journey so far, and I think it will grow to be bigger. I'm very happy and honored to be here representing those dreams and being the first Saudi women astronaut representing the region. It's a great pleasure and honor that I'm very happy to carry. Thank you.
Thank you. And trying to squeeze in one last question for the crew. We're in a new, and this is Jay Keegan, we're in a new era of space exploration. What would you say to the next generation of scientists and explorers looking to get involved in the space industry?
As an inspirational message, I would say you need to always work beyond what you think you're capable of. If you only do what you think you can do, or that you're sure you can do, you will never find out what you're actually truly capable of. So much more than you might dream.
My dad has this message has always been telling me as I face any difficulties and ask him for advice. He said, he who fears climbing mountains will live forever among pits. So just keep going, find your mountain, keep climbing, because the view from the top is going to be amazing, and it's going to be worth it.
Well, space is back in a big way, and it's expanding faster than ever. And there's so many opportunities. And I truly believe that at a young age, every child has a voice within them that tells them what they would like to pursue. And I believe that whatever that is, it will have a home in space exploration or in the development of space access. And you don't have to aspire to just be an astronaut. You can be any of the many thousands of roles that are required to help us develop our way of going to space. So listen to that little voice and just punch out there and do it.
I'd like to answer by saying that His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman always said that this country is for dreamers. Well, I believe that the whole region is for dreamers. Dream big and follow your dreams. If we can do it, then you can do it too. And just be the best version of yourself, study hard, and pursue your dreams.
Thank you to all the AX2 crew, and thank you for all for joining us. That's concluded our AX2 press conference. This mission is scheduled to launch on Sunday, May 21st at 5:37 p.m. Eastern Time from the Kennedy Kennedy Space Center. I know there'll be lots of visitors joining us and watching this both at home and at the launch site. So we're very excited. I hope today you got an opportunity to see just how incredible this crew is and how much our team is really excited to send these incredible humans to space. Our next opportunity for the media will be the pre-launch press conference on Saturday, May 20th at 6 p.m. More information is available at axiomspace.com with a full list of media opportunities. Until then, we will see you on launch day or before, but then our biggest thing is just to say, go AX2. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.